Lesson 22 is called Conditional Equations, and the word conditional means how true or false an equation depends on the value that we're putting in for the variable in the equation. So for example, if I had x plus 2 equals 7, if I asked if, let's see, would x being equal to 4 make this equation true or false? So in other words, the answer to that, if I put 4 in for x, 4 plus 2 is 6, and 6 is not equal to 7. So this would be a false statement because 4 would not make this equation true. It would make it false. So this is what we would call a conditional equation, because the true or false part of this equation is determined by the value that we put in. Now, to better explain this, let's take a look at our first example. And it says, does a negative 2 or 2 satisfy x minus 2 equals 0? So the way this is worded, we know that one of those is going to make this equation true. Because they say, does a negative 2 or 2 make it true? Well, let's try both of them. Let's try a negative 2 first. So if I put a negative 2 in for x and subtract 2, and we're going to ask ourselves if that's equal to 0. Well, let's see. If I have a negative 2 and then take away 2 more, that's a negative 4. And a negative 4 is not equal to 0. That's false. So we're assuming then that probably the other value is going to work. And if I put 2 in for x, 2 minus 2, is that equal to 0? And we can see that it is. 2 minus 2 is 0. So the value that would make this equation true would be the value of 2 then. Example 2. It says, is a negative 2 or a negative 5 a root of x squared plus 7x equals a negative 10? Well, let's try a negative 2. So I'm going to take a negative 2 and square it. So whatever x is, we're going to square. Plus, now I put a negative 2 in for x over here also. So 7 times a negative 2. And we're going to see if this left side is equal to a negative 10. So a negative 2 times a negative 2 is 4. Plus, now multiply, negative 14. Is that equal to a negative 10? And let's see, 4 degrees above 0, it drops 14. And I can see that this is a negative 10. So a negative 2 would make this true. So I'm going to put a check by that because that would make it true. Now that's not saying that maybe a negative 5 might not make this true also. You might have more than one value that would make these true. So as I erase this, what we're going to do next is we're going to place a negative 5 now in for x. So let's try this. So whatever x is, now we're trying a negative 5. We're going to square it, plus 7 times a negative 5, and we're going to see if that's equal to a negative 10. Let's see, 25 plus a negative 35. Does that equal a negative 10? And in this case, we can see that, let's see, 25 degrees above 0 drops 35, and we can see that that is a negative 10. So a negative 5 would work. Now I just want to go back and check that negative 2 just to make sure that both these are working. So a negative 2 squared plus 7 times a negative 2, and we're checking to see if that's a negative 10. And we have a negative, or excuse me, we have 4. So I'm going to erase that and put 4. So 4 plus a negative 14. And we're asking ourselves if that's equal to a negative 10. And we can see then that, let's see, 4 plus a negative 14 is a negative 10. So both these in this case would make this true. So sometimes one might make it true, sometimes both values might make it true. You might have situations where neither one would make it true. Example 3. It says, is a negative 3 or 2 a root of x squared minus x equals 12? Well, let's try a negative 3. So let's see, a negative 3, I'm going to square that, subtract a negative 3, and ask ourselves if that's equal to 12. So I have 9 minus minus is plus. Now we can see that that works, doesn't it? Alright, let's see if 2 makes it work. So take 2 and square it, subtract 2, see if that's equal to 12. 4 minus 2, is that equal to 12? The answer is no. So the only one is a negative 3 in this situation. So all conditional equations is equations where they're determined to be true or false by the value that we put in for the variable.